Bad music, you know what it means. It means it's Free Speech Friday time. We're going to get a couple of decent New Zealanders, people who are happy to speak their mind, and we chew over the events of, well, in this case, it's a very short week, but we had a bit of Waitangi there at the start. Look, I'm really looking forward to a new matchup that we've got today. Well, let's go ladies first. An old friend of mine in the biz, in the industry. She's a broadcaster, she's a talkback host. And the most important thing about this guest, she's a dog lover. And I know she's lost one of her peaches recently. Lovely person, good view of the world. Leah Panapa joins us. Leah, how nice to have you here.
Hello, Sean. Less of the old, thank you.
Yeah, well, no, that was in relation to the age of our relationship, not you personally, though, Leah. I am getting to the stage where I'm just going to have to hold that moniker, own that moniker, because I just cannot cover it up anymore. But nice to have you with us. And we are joined by, well, another old mate of mine. He is he has been a journalist, a TV producer, a lobbyist, done a bit of PR. He's a man for all seasons, and he is now eking out his retirement existence, or the latter days of his life, down in Dunedin. He's named Mark Champion, and he joins us again for the first time this year. How are you, Mark?
Oh, well, I don't like this latter stage of my life, Sean. You can put that in the box.
Oh, right. Gosh, I'm getting it from everyone today. All right, people, let's start with Waitangi. What did you do Waitangi Day, Leah?
I was supposed to paint a new fence that we've just had built, and by the time it got to about midday, it was roasting in our backyard, and my husband said, "You can't paint that, darling, it's too hot." And I said, "You're a fine man," and I think we cracked open a nice cold Chardonnay. That's
good. I was going to say, was it the problem with the fence that Chris Luxon was sitting on it? Mark, what did you do Waitangi Day?
Oh, a bit of the same, and tried to avoid the news coverage, but without success.
Look, guys, I was reflecting, and I said to Paul Goldsmith, the Minister of Treaty Negotiations today, actually, if we were to get past the breathless Māori advocacy practiced by TVNZ and RNZ, and it would seem all our news media, actually no one threw anything. There wasn't a dildo in sight, not a wet T-shirt, not any mud. I didn't see any conflict with police, and I didn't see an arrest. Actually, Mark, in the context of Waitangi Day, that's very peaceful.
Oh, look, I agree, Sean. I think that there was a build-up of tension, mostly developed by the news media, about a confrontation, and I think everyone was too smart for that. And I think the government has done well to actually diffuse it. And if I was looking at it just as I am from the outside, I would say that there's a lot of paddling under the water going on. And I think we're going to see a bit of that later in the year.
In terms of who's doing the paddling?
Well, I think that I've been searching for a strategy from National in terms of how they're going to go about diffusing the issue. I mean, they're making a bit of a muddle of it at the moment. But in terms of a strategy, I think that, if I was a betting man, they've already indicated that they're going to sort of try for a devolved power model where, to use a sort of commercial term, they're going to do a sort of direct-to-consumer approach where they're actually going to start really funding Maori projects in order to roll back some of the statistics that we all know about, rather than perhaps doing it through iwi power structures. And that would be my bet.
Which is why iwi is so pissed off, Mark, because the gravy train has stopped.
And look, they're a lobby group, let's face it. And so many Maori don't associate with iwi, but they're still very much a part of those statistics. And if I was a political analyst, I would say that there's votes to be had because we know that they're fluid. And any improvement, such as Retty's $50 million announcement about vaccinations in Wellington, direct to the people who are going to implement that, would be the strategy that I would employ.
Leah, interesting too. I was only partly joking about Luxon sitting on the fence. It looks like he went to Waitangi with the idea to bore everyone into submission as well, with last year's speech in his back pocket. But isn't the fear here amongst, and I hate to say it, amongst the completely compromised mainstream media and the iwi leaders and the Maori radical, the fear is that most New Zealanders agree with what David Seymour's trying to do in the Treaty Principles Bill, and that's why they're so afraid about having the discussion.
Mm-hmm. I think, Sean, 100%. You are bang on the money. They realise, as Mark also pointed out, that that they don't speak for all Māoridom and Māori people, and they're very well aware, TPM, the Willie Jacksons, the John Tamaheres, and that ilk, that they have to now start really making a big noise because the tide's turned, and predominantly, I'm part Māori, and New Zealanders, we're sick of it, and we want all of New Zealand to be involved. We don't feel that we are. Can I, though, quickly circle back, Sean, that you said, yes, nothing was thrown or there was no mud or dildos at Waitangi. There was a man's penis in David Seymour's face when he went, the
Look,
guy...
some people like that. But, look, that's a cultural thing.
And also on display was who had the largest ticky, which I found also quite interesting. Mike McTicky. Anyway, yes, to go back to your question, it is. It's because they, the TPM, Willie Jackson, the iwi leaders that are concerned, because they can see that if it goes to this and goes further, New Zealand will want to see the treaty principles defined. Yeah,
and New Zealanders do want it. They're not an isolated bunch of people in Ku Klux Klan uniforms, it strikes me. No. Yeah.
No, like I said, I grew up, my mother, European, father Māori. I have never in my life, in my 35 years, okay, I'm a little bit older.
Good try, but no banana.
I've never in my life felt such like a vibration and that I feel uncomfortable, Sean, in certain situations, and I never in my life have, and I don't want.
Okay, let's interrogate it. What do you feel uncomfortable at? That
I'll be honest. I mean, it's no secret. Last year, I worked briefly with the ACT Party in the run-up to the election. And
that's all right. Most of TVNZ worked with the Labour and the Green Party.
Yeah. And there were times when I accompanied David to TVNZ Day. That was one night where I was with him and the rest of the comms team and to support him, with their stand-up. And I felt that, Spatu Māori were next door, and I said, kia ora to everyone, but I felt that I was really stared down and not...
Oh, wrong sort of Māori, Leah.
I was almost
wrong sort of Māori. We can't have that.
Yeah, well, Willie's called me a plastic Māori before, and I find that, look, to be honest, the guy opens his mouth and he never engages his brain. And I'm not the only one that's been called that by him. He's called Karen Shaw that. He's called Nicole McKee that. But now even I'm not Māori enough for Māoridom. Come on.
Yeah. Mark, the question too about Waitangi is our perception of it. And, until the platform takes its rightful place as the source of all knowledge, most people are getting their impressions of what happens at Waitangi and in politics in this country from a small number of legacy media operations. How do you rate them as, you were in this business back when Paul Holmes was the hottest thing since sliced bread, Mark, so you've got some experience in listening to what Leah says. Are we getting from mainstream media a true, clear and fair and impartial version of events as they unfold in this country?
No, we're not. A couple of things, though. I think the taxpayer Curia poll identifies that, as Leah says, that that the majority of people support the concept of a principles bill, as articulated by Seymour.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing, despite the silliness of the mainstream media.
Well, Simon Dallow and TVNZ just saying the government wants to rewrite the Treaty of Waitangi. Just complete bullshit.
That's right. That's all part of it. Look, I've got a kind of vignette movie going around in my head, which is the Discovery executives going down to the Beehive with their hand out, looking for a bailout for their TV station. And I look, that's the one meeting that I want to be in, because I think that, you can't have it both ways. You've got a state broadcaster with a stacked board. That needs to be cleaned out. We've talked about that before. And you've got a TV station that's nearly broke. I mean, I think that, you've got to almost connect the dots between the editorial failure and the commercial failure.
Mm. And then you have at least some new media, and I don't know if you read that piece by by newsroom staff, about how terrible it is when politicians tell us lies and no one picks them up on it. And this amazing passage from Mark Jennings, who says, after 22 years of head of TV3 and 5 years heading the newsroom, I've watched faith in journalism decline to its lowest level ever, to the point where it threatens democracy. I wonder if he's looked in a mirror,
Yeah.
Mark?
Well, yeah. I think...
maybe the two things aren't unrelated, Mark.
Well, I think they are, and I think that the corruption of the journalism fund has skewed the moral outlook, and there's no other word for it. I think let's call it what it is, and I just think that demonstrates that it's rotten to the core. But most failing businesses don't act appropriately. Yeah. And these, as you said, are legacy media. They're dying.
Leah, you're an amazing example of this. You stood against the tide of wokeness that, got rid of people like me off Magic, got rid of Magic, and then you were tolerated to be back on Today FM, and you and Miles, of course, got told off for saying what you thought on talk radio, and then swiftly Today FM goes belly up. I mean, geez, what an experience for you. You've lived through go woke, go broke, haven't you?
I look back on those times, and it was only last year, Sean, it feels a lifetime ago, but that was probably in my career, I never thought my career was going to end because I said something that was correct.
Well, it hasn't, by the way. It hasn't ended,
Well, you know what I mean. That only women have babies, can give birth.
Yeah.
I did not think that was going to scuttle my 36 years in broadcasting. And, I talk about it with my husband, and it's hard not to, you can't get bitter, right?
Yeah.
But there's moments I want to go, will someone ever interview me? Oh, it's Sean. Will someone ever interview me and want the truth, and really want to know what was going on behind closed doors?
Look, yeah. I think anyone who's been in a reasonably conflict zone in the media understands that, Leah. I mean, I sat in an editing booth as the CEO of TVNZ was watching a draft of for the public good, for the Weinbach story, and just simply killed it right there in the editing booth. And, you've been there, especially through public broadcasting. There's so many pressures because of government ownership.
Yeah.
But, look, I got to say, MediaWorks, Leah, it was all self-inflicted by the wokies, wasn't it? It really was. And it still is.
And it is. And it's quite sad. I think it's sad too, Sean, because I was there for 23 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not even that's not even a generation to see such a change.
Yeah.
That's 20 years from when I first joined, and the things that we used to be able to do and say and enjoyed, and I just enjoyed it thoroughly. But, things change.
Yeah. Well, things do change, and never give up, and I'm living proof that phoenixes can rise from ashes, believe me. Guys, I want to talk a bit more about Jim. We need to take a break to pay for the program, and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about Tucker Carlson and the waves he's making.